Today on CityCast Portland, we're talking downtown fentanyl markets, Oregon's roadkill laws, our upcoming summer music festivals, and more. Mira Powell, higher education reporter for Oregon Public Broadcasting, is joining us for a weekly news roundup, along with Brian M. Vance, director of newsletters for CityCast. It's Friday, March 31st. I'm Claudia Meza, and this is what Portland's talking about. Brian, Mira, thank you so much for joining us. I'm really excited that you're both here.
Yes, excited.
Thank you for having us.
I feel like this is yet another OPB reunion. But before we normally jump into the week's headlines, I like to ask a question just so people who are not familiar with either of you kind of know who's in the room. And this week's question comes because I recently went to City Hall for a meeting and I met with an aide of one of the commissioners. And this aide was wearing a Slytherin sweater, which was bold, but and for those of you confused, that's one of the Hogwarts houses of Harry Potter. But it also made me think okay, if we had to sort everyone on the city council into Hogwarts houses, where would they go? And I'm talking about Mayor Ted Wheeler, Commissioner Renee Gonzalez, Commissioner Carmen Rubio, Commissioner Mingus Maps, and then Commissioner Dan Ryan. But let's start with Ted Wheeler. And before I start, for those who are just I didn't watch Hogwarts Horrors, or I'm not a nerd, let me bring you down to our level. The Hogwarts houses are Gryffindor, which, I don't know, guys, how would you explain a Gryffindor?
It's the house of Harry Potter. That's
that's his. Brave, courageous.
Yeah, but the downside would be could be reckless, just a little bit.
Incredibly reckless.
Yeah.
A little bit of a white savior complex to it.
Sure. Yeah,
oh my God, that's perfect. Yeah, and in school they might be the jock.
Yeah.
They could be a jock, and then Hufflepuff, which I think is super nice. Everyone's he's a nice guy, she's a nice guy, but hard work, patient, loyal, would be the stoners of the high school.
That's right.
I like that you're using high school cliques.
So I'm okay, you all went to high school or have seen cliche high school movies. Hang with us. So then there's Ravenclaw. How would you describe Ravenclaw, Mira?
I'd say they're really smart, determined, kind of bookish.
Yeah. They'd also be eccentric, And then there's Slytherin, which is
the bullies.
Well, I feel like they were given a bad rap because Lord Voldemort was a Slytherin, which is the worst guy ever. Basically the devil was a Slytherin. But also Harry Potter was almost a Slytherin.
That's true.
And they're ambitious, they're cunning, resourceful. I feel like no matter what, every politician is already a Slytherin.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, and I feel Slytherin would be the legacy kids in any college.
Yes, 100%. They feel like Harvard legacies. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we're all on the same level of these Hogwarts houses. So let's go Mayor Ted Wheeler. What are we feeling?
I feel like you've ruined my plan, Claudia, of just calling everyone Slytherin.
Well, you know what? Just stick with. I agree. Should we just move on? Or are we just going to be all all right, they're all Slytherin?
No. I think there's a case to be made for a few of them to be something else. But I do think Ted is Slytherin, but not elite level Slytherin.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he has a Slytherin upbringing with a Hufflepuff heart. And I think that's why he frustrates people. Because at one point, he wanted to please everyone. I'm just talking about that part.
This is amazing. It's Slytherin's son, Hufflepuff Rising.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Slytherin's son, Hufflepuff Rising. Am I wrong? I don't know.
No, I think
yeah,
he's got some tendencies of a Hufflepuff.
All right, Commissioner Renee Gonzalez, who does our safety. I think a lot of people just sort of dump him and he's really pro-cop. But, he does other things.
I think based off some of the qualities of Slytherin, because he is very you look at the way he got elected. He was very smart in who he aligned with, in the allegiances he formed, in what he said and what he didn't say. I think he's very shrewd and strategic, and, he can be tough. And that's a Slytherin.
What about you, Mira?
Listen, I'm sticking with my guns for every Slytherin.
Just nonstop Slytherin all the way down. Okay. Commissioner Carmen Rubio. This was hard for me.
I don't know a ton about Carmen Rubio, but what I have heard is she does seem a little bit like a Ravenclaw. Like she's pretty smart. She knows her stuff. She's very warm and friendly, but not necessarily like out there to make friends with everyone.
Is she like water or
Oversees community and economic development services, which includes the Portland Housing Bureau, the Bureau of Development Service, the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability, and Prosper Portland.
Oh, okay.
And Mira, still Slytherin with this.
You know what? You're
Mira's brutal.
You're swaying me a
move
little
on.
bit. You're swaying me. I could divert from my Slytherin track a little bit here. I also don't know a ton about her, but weighing the bureaus, like what I've heard about her and how she interacts with people, I do agree that she seems maybe a little less Slytherin than the others do.
Okay. And now we're going to Commissioner Mingus Maps, who is a former political science teacher, and he oversees
Transportation, right?
He oversees transpo. That's what I talked to him about.
I'm torn between like a Hufflepuff and a Gryffindor. Like I can see qualities of both those. Like obviously he's highly intelligent. Like he literally taught politics to people before he got into politics. But he also, he's a little jockish in a good way, not a bad way, but like he was a big time bike commuter before he got a job where he has to be downtown all the time.
What about you, Mira?
Well, hearing that he was a professor, that just like makes me think Ravenclaw, because it just seems very, I feel like all professors are Ravenclaw.
Yeah.
But the biking thing, and also just, Bureau of Transport, PBOT, alternative transportation does make me feel a little Gryffindor, a little jockish too.
Yeah, he'd ride a broom.
So yes, my initial thought is right on a broom.
Totally ride a broom.
Alternative transportation.
Okay, so I think the way you think of Ted Wheeler as a Slytherin, I think of Mingus Maps as a Gryffindor. So I would say Gryffindor Rising, but Hufflepuff, son.
Okay.
Like he is. I spoke to the man. Straight up Hufflepuff for me. You actually changed my mind, Brian. I was like, oh, is he Gryffindor? And I just didn't read that right.
Yeah, there's like some tendencies there.
Okay, my favorite here. Commissioner Dan Ryan.
I'm going back to my guns with Slytherin.
Okay, Slytherin.
But also, if we're thinking about bureaus, he has doesn't he have arts?
Yeah. And the DEI for some reason.
Yeah.
And just to remind you, 2 bureau heads left because of him very recently, back to back. The DEI, and what was the other one? Was it like some
obscure department?
There's
I know the DEI was recent.
There's been some good reporting
turnover
about how he maybe isn't the easiest person to work for. So
exactly, or he's putting order in the house. We don't know,
Yeah, it's so hard to tell.
Much.
Portland government is complex, and even what leaks out,
and not very transparent.
Isn't always not transparent.
All right, guys, that was the longest opening question, but I really wanted someone to play with me, and no one on my team knows Harry Potter, and Julia just made fun of me. That's our audio producer. Because she's like, you're such a millennial. And I'm like, whatever.
It had its time.
It did have its
before
time.
J.K. Rowling came out as
kind
of a cringy person. It had its time.
Okay. Well, Brian, you have a headline for us that to be honest, I didn't even dig in too deep because I really want to hear this story.
I have been obsessed with this series that Willamette Week started late last year, where every week they take an abandoned, rundown building somewhere in Portland and they do a profile of it. They try to figure out who owns it, why it's sat empty, how much it's worth, and tell you the backstory of it. And there's been some really interesting stories that they've uncovered. What's really cool, though, is it's actually making things happen in the city. So last week, they did a profile of Washington Center. It's a collection of buildings in downtown Portland. It's where the old Key Bank used to be. You may know it as the really rundown, grungy, graffitied, full of squatters and drugs and everything building that's right off the Morrison Bridge on the west side.
The Key Bank Center, right?
There used to be a Key Bank there. And a bagel shop and a business school. And it was a really prominent location. It's very central. basically since 2019, it's gone to shit. It's really run down. It has recently turned into an open air fentanyl market. So people are literally standing there dealing fentanyl in broad daylight.
And guys, just so you know, that's not legal in Portland. So if you're like,
It
oh,
is
is that
not.
legal? It is not legal in Portland to sell fentanyl.
It is
like how you
wildly
had to specify
not legal.
that.
And like, it's a safety issue. There are, the building is really in terrible shape. What security efforts the owners of the building took, they didn't really follow through with them. And so that's sort of what this story unraveled, was that it's owned by a very wealthy real estate family who has a lot of land holdings in Portland, but also Dallas, Denver, Seattle, like all over the country.
Oh, okay.
They are big time people, and they have had beef with the city before in a very similar way. So back in 2010, they also got in trouble for not really taking care of the property. They are a part of the downtown Portland Clean and Safe District. So it's like a special district of the city of Portland where business owners pay dues to this organization who is then responsible for keeping the streets clean and providing security. They didn't want to pay back then. They got almost 60 grand in debt back then and got into like a really public political spat with City Hall. Eventually it gets taken care of. But here we are again. They are tens of thousands of dollars behind on their dues to Clean and Safe, while Clean and Safe is going out and trying to secure this place. But the people who actually own it, who can actually do something about it, are basically just having a pissing match with our city politics right now. And it's just like such a symbol of, when people talk about what's going on in Portland, it's that you get these people who are really entrenched in taking a stand and making their point of view super clear, even if it doesn't make sense. It does not make sense for them to own this multi-million-dollar chunk of prime real estate and let it go to shit.
Yeah.
When they could fix it up and sell it.
What's the end game for them?
I really don't know. I mean, so since that story came out, they started cleaning it up a little bit. Clean and Safe stepped in and did another cleaning without being paid, but stepped in and cleaned it up. And what's really interesting is the police have started to crack down on the area. So they've made a bunch of arrests of people who are dealing fentanyl. And then the most interesting wrinkle that I think came out of this is Multnomah County is trying something really interesting with charging fentanyl dealers. Not only are they charging fentanyl dealers with like dealing drugs and distributing narcotics, they're charging them with trademark infringement. It's this really, yes,
For
it's
fentanyl?
For fentanyl, because the way that narcotics manufacturers are marketing and making fentanyl is it is designed to look like oxycodone. Like they are literally printing, brand name stamps on the pills. And a prosecutor at Multnomah County figured out that like the M that is on a lot of the blue pills that are being sold in Portland around Washington Center is actually a trademark of this is ironic, of a pharmaceutical company that Multnomah County sued for their role in the opioid epidemic. But now they are using their trademark to go after drug dealers, including people who have been arrested for dealing in and around Washington Center.
That is really interesting.
Trademark law and copyright law are crazy, and it is weird how intense the punishments can be for violating that. I mean, some of these people are facing like 10, 15 years just for that charge. And then you add on possession of high amounts of fentanyl with intent to distribute, and you're looking at lengthy sentences that they're facing. No one's been convicted yet. No one's pled guilty yet, but there have been a handful of people charged with this.
Mira, what are you thinking?
That's just wild. That's all of this is wild.
So wild.
There's so much happening.
It is crazy. Yeah, it's like a circus down there.
Yeah. It's crazy to me that the city, there's no way for the city just to take action and take the building.
Eminent domain.
Yeah.
Or like,
But it's not. It's like eminent domain is a thing. And this is, and I've seen a few people bring this up, is like when Mayor Ted Wheeler ran the first time, he pledged that he would do anything possible to end homelessness within 2 years. Here is a building that just he could take that has previously been used. Part of it has previously been used as a homeless shelter that you could take and rehab. And this is an example of something that he could do. And they would get paid, because the way eminent domain works, you get paid a fair market value. But again, this is where the family shot themselves in the foot. They've let the building get into such terrible condition. Fair market value isn't going to be a lot because the building is in god awful shape.
Yeah.
So,
But it does come with free fentanyl.
free fentanyl. And some graffiti, some
Yeah.
cool street art. So, yeah.
All right, let's take a break here. When we come back, more headlines of the week. I want to share with you, I have like two very small, low-key news items that occurred this week. And you might have heard this, but the Tomahawk Waterfront Park cherry blossom trees.
Oh, yeah.
They blossom every spring. It's kind of an iconic thing that happens. So, I didn't know the full history of those cherry blossom trees. And when I dug in, I didn't realize that there were like 100 of them, and they were specifically 100. And they were supposed to represent the Japanese people who were forced into internment camps in America, and there was over 100,000 of them. Just know that when you're looking at those like cherry blossom trees, which by the way, it's peak right now, so you should go check them out. It was a gift from Japan. It was for the dedication of the Japanese American Historical Plaza in 1990, which is now like located in Old Town. But it was very significant, and it lines it all the way to that plaza. And it really is a Japanese reminder of what we did to their people in America.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I just think that's the best. I think that's such a power move. That's all.
Yeah.
And it's such a beautiful
Exactly.
way to get that message across.
Mhm.
Like, it's stunning, and it attracts people down there every year, people who hopefully stop and read the plaques and learn what it stands for. And great move on Japan's part.
I know. I mean, to me, now that's a Slytherin move. Do you know what I mean? Like, that is
cunning,
Yeah.
resourceful.
that is peak.
They're playing
Amazing.
chess, like 3D chess.
Yes.
They're playing that's 3D chess
Yeah.
right
That
there.
is 3D chess.
So anyhow, go check out the cherry blossom trees. The other thing I wanted to mention just real quick was back in 2017, Oregon lawmakers approved a permitting process to bring more structure to the Oregonians' consumption of deer and elk, right? This is from the Willamette Week, that were killed in collisions. So they thought this would also make it so people would stop doing it on purpose, because if they don't have this permit, and I'm like, well, who's going to come to you and ask
Who
for
is
this
doing it on purpose? Like,
Yeah.
you'd have to like have a deer and elk in the way, and like,
Yeah.
there's too many things that, like, if you've ever seen a collision with an elk, like, it's terrible.
It's also
know.
so much damage on your car. And like,
Mhm.
that's, what you're like, what a $10,000, strap, like the back strap of it cost me $10,000 worth it. But the thing is, this is the best part, is because now since 2017, they've been issuing these permits, they've noticed a drop. And I love that the department who does it, which is the Oregon Fish and Wildlife, are just like, what's happening? Why aren't people getting these permits? And they can't, for the life of them, figure out why Oregonians are eating less roadkill. And
Yeah.
that to me is also just like, where are we?
Right.
That this is a discussion, But I dug deep, and I was like, okay, well, what are people eating? And of course, number one, like hundreds, is elk and deer. And then the second is like road vermin, just like the smaller game. So in my head, I'm like, I guess like bunnies, squirrels, and raccoons and
Ew.
possums. I don't know, but okay. But here's the other one, and I don't think they're eating, but this is like roadkill, and I couldn't believe it was third. Bears.
What?
Who's out here? Yes.
What?
Who hits a bear?
That's mostly what I'm wondering.
What?
Like, how are they getting on the? Who's just like, oh, I missed that bear.
They're so big.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, just so you know, they're like, it gets lower in number. I mean, it's third, but by then it's like, oh, you're hitting
It's
30 bear.
way down
yeah.
there, but
Yeah, it's not like
That's still
hundreds.
a lot of bears.
But
even
though.
one bear here.
Yeah,
seems
I
excessive.
know. Like,
Where are all of the where is this? That bears are just hanging out in the road.
Well, here's another one where I was like, how is this happening? In the list too was bald eagles. And there was like more than one that have been hit. And you're nodding your head, Brian. I don't understand how that's happening, because they fly. They're in the air.
Yeah.
There's a raptor center south of Eugene. Basically, they take in injured birds from all over the country, and a lot of the birds there, including some eagles, are there because they got hit by cars. It's
Oh.
it's sad. It's, they move so fast when they're flying that they may be swooping down and not see the car, and they get hit.
And I'm assuming it's also like I'm thinking it's like the really tall, commerce vehicles, like the 10, wheelers
That's
and
true.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, just heads up. You still need a permit to eat roadkill. That's all. Don't forget.
Thanks.
Yeah. You're welcome, Mira.
You just ruined my dinner plans.
Oh,
You're like
it's a
driving
whole
in my
thing now. I gotta wait
my
in
little
line.
Now I have to
Subaru
fill out
Outback.
paperwork. Like this is
Yeah.
no.
They're like,
Looking
I'm
for
just
some
gonna eat
bears.
Italian tonight. Forget it. Well, Mira, what is your news item for the week?
Yeah. Well, just recently, earlier this week, I think, or maybe it was over the weekend, Pickathon announced their lineup for this year. If you get a chance, you should go. It's wonderful.
Where is it? Like, where is it located?
It's in
on a
Happy
farm.
Valley. Yeah, it's on a farm called
okay.
Pendarvis Farm in Happy Valley. But it's really beautiful. It's like all forested. It's a camping festival, so you're camping out in the woods.
That's why I haven't gone.
Yeah, okay, well, see, I hate festivals. But I love this festival.
Okay,
so
what is so special about Pickathon?
it's just like the setting. The only other like camping festival I've been to was Sasquatch, and you're like in the gorge, it's dusty, it's windy, it's like there's no shade, so you're just hot. But Pickathon, it's like you're literally in the forest, you're like in the trees. So you're just like camping with your buds, and then you walk in, you go see some music, and there's like stages kind of scattered throughout the forest. It's really nice.
The stages are wild.
The stages are really wild. Yeah.
They basically build all of them each year.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like something from a fantasy novel. Like it's really, really,
Are they
really
different
weird.
designs every year?
Every stage is different. Yeah.
That's so cool. I mean, I know people get excited about it. Like, what are you most excited to see at Pickathon this year, Mira?
Looking at the lineup, there's a lot of exciting things. I think kind of the joy of Pickathon is there's a lot of artists that people maybe have not heard of. And I feel like when I went, which was back in like 2016, that was some of the fun. It was just like wandering around to bands that you just don't know, and then you find something wonderful. But this year, it looks like I don't even know if I'd call them headliners, but kind of like the biggest names in the lineup are this kind of Americana folk duo called Watch House, which I'm not familiar with, but I guess people are excited about. I'm not up on my Americana and folk, but people seem to be really excited about them. And then Lee Fields, who is this like amazing soul singer. So those are kind of the bigger names.
But you can find some really cool bands there.
For sure. I'm looking at it, and it is a lot of like guitars and stuff like that. And the only band I recognize are the Shivas. And I love the Shivas.
Oh, yeah. The Portland band.
Yeah, because they're from Portland. Yeah.
Because they're from Portland, yeah. But yeah, other bands playing this year that like I'm excited for if I was going, if anyone, has an extra free ticket to Pickathon. There's this artist named MJ Lenderman. He's like put out a really great alternative album with like a little bit of country mixed in, a little country twang, really good. Say She is this like women-led soul band. I think they have like 3 vocalists. They're just like amazing. They're this Zambian rock band from the 70s.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, just like a really diverse lineup. But yeah, I mean, that's like kind of what Pickathon's all about. It's just
you just go discover.
You go discover new music.
Yeah, listen to something you've never heard before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anything else, Mira, that you're like thinking about hitting music-wise this summer? And just so you know, Mira goes to a lot of shows. I'm a friend of hers online, and all of her stories are
we know each other outside of work.
Yeah, we're friends. All of her stories are of like her roller skating, because she's a really good roller skater, but not like like wee around, like she's doing tricks and stuff. Wee.
That is what I say.
So it's all like roller skating, you riding your bike an immense amount of miles, like too many miles, honestly, Mira, and then you going to shows. So if Mira's gonna like tell you to go to something, just know that she has a lot of experience.
Wow, thanks. Wow. I guess the other thing that I'm excited for this summer is there's a really great lineup for the Pioneer Courthouse Square shows.
I love the Pioneer Courthouse Square shows.
Yeah.
Like what is coming up that you're really excited about?
Well, they have they're kind of the opposite of Pickathon. They have some pretty big names. I think this is the second year that they're doing these shows. And I think we have like Descendants are coming, Mountain Goats,
Ooh.
Flaming Lips, I think Tegan and Sarah. So a lot. Fleet Foxes, I think. Tons. The ones that I'm definitely going to, Alex G is one of my favorite artists.
What's Alex G about?
He, I would say, has some of the most interesting songwriting in indie music right now to me. There's also Japanese Breakfast, my hometown hero, because she's from Eugene as well.
Yeah.
And then Biba Doobie, who is this like indie artist originally from the Philippines. And so represent that as well. But yeah, just like a really kind of banger of a lineup from them.
How much are the courthouse shows? How much do they cost usually?
They range. I think some of the smaller artists, like Alex G, maybe Biba Doobie, are like $35, which is still like on the higher end for me as someone who likes to go to like very cheap shows. And then I want to say the bigger ones like Flaming Lips, probably like $60. So there's a range.
For those who are just like, oh, that's still too much, let me give you a tip, because I've done this, because I've lived here for a little bit. So this is an open air area.
You can perfectly
You can sit across from like the Nordstrom. You have your water bottle. It doesn't have to have water in it. You're at the goddamn show.
Maybe
right
if there's
there.
like a tall building around, you know, seeing the
you
little,
can see things. Or like if you want to get fancy, go to one of the hotels around there, go to their the roof, like go to their happy hour. You're getting a free show.
I'm just gonna go stand outside arenas now and just
Honestly,
popcorn, and you're like, I'm having a good time.
I can hear the music. It's great. Yeah.
Well, Brian, Mira, thank you so much for spending your morning with me. I love talking to you guys. Love to have you back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
That's all for today here on CityCast Portland. Our lead producer is John Notariani. Our audio producer is Julia Fiaioni. Our newsletter editor is Rachel Monahan. And our host is me, Claudia Meza. A special thank you to CityCast producer Lizzie Goldsmith for all her help with production this week. Original music by Jenny Conley and Stephen Drizos. Additional music by Epidemic Sound. We'll be back Monday morning with more from around the city. Until then, see you at Slim's.